Night settles on a high plateau in northern Laos. Cicadas hum. A thin mist drifts over a clearing, and in that clearing sit hundreds of stone jars, silent, heavy, older than memory. Each one is taller than a person, carved from single boulders and left without a note, without a name, scattered across the hills like a question someone forgot to answer. Who left these? Why here? And why so many? If you listen closely, the jars don't speak, but the land around them does. Tonight, we'll let the plateau whisper its story. Welcome to the Xiangkhouang Plateau, eastern Laos, a place where the air turns cool at dusk and the light falls softly over green fields and pale rock. Locals call it the Thong Hai Hin, the plain of jars, and that name is exactly what it is, a plain and jars, thousands of them, carved from sandstone, limestone, and occasional granite, standing alone or in clusters, some upright and proud, others tilted, nicked, cracked, reclaimed by grass. There are many jar sites out here, dozens spread across the hills, but travelers often begin at Site 1, a broad knoll with a lone bomb crater pooled with rainwater, and a famous jar that keeps its stone disc nearby, like a lid that never quite closed. From that single hill, the plateau rolls away, and you begin to feel it, the mystery. Not one jar, but fields of them, and no clear inscription to explain. Each jar is a riddle you can touch, a cylinder, 2 meters tall, maybe more, its rim weathered by seasons that came and went long before ours. Some are big enough for a person to sit inside, some light enough, if light is the right word, to be nudged by a team of very determined people, but most weigh tons. They were carved with tools we can imagine, chisels, hammers, wedges, but the scale is unsettling because someone didn't make one jar. They made hundreds, then hundreds more, and scattered them like milestones across a landscape of memory. Near a few jars you'll find flat stones scored with circles, lids, perhaps, or markers, and on a handful you can see faint carvings, a frog, a human figure, a pattern half lost to rain. The jars are empty inside, open to the sky, and that emptiness, that hollow, invites every theory a human mind can hold. Ask a local elder, and you may hear a smile in the story. Long ago, they'll say, giants lived on this plateau. The giant king won a great victory, and his people carved huge jars to brew rice wine for the celebration. Can't you picture it? Fires burning, steam rising, jars lined like drums at a festival. The kind of tale that makes a child's eyes grow wide. Or another version, a powerful chieftain named Xiangkhouang, or Xiangkhouang, fought a war, and to mark his triumph, had jars carved for feasts that lasted under a full moon. Legends are generous like that. They fill the gaps in our memory with feasts and giants, with loud victories, because silence is hard to live with. And the jars stay silent, their lips open, their bellies empty. In the early 20th century, a French researcher named Madeleine Colani walked these hills, compass in hand, notebook open, eyes tuned to detail. She mapped the sites, sketched the jars, and made a careful, quiet argument. The jars were for the dead. Not primary burials, not the first resting place, but a step in a longer ritual, what scholars call secondary burial. Colani and others found beads, fragments of bone, charcoal, and ceramics around some jars and stone discs. Not inside most jars, but near them, as if the space around the jar mattered as much as the jar itself. Imagine a ceremony. The body first laid somewhere else, then, after time, after transformation, bones cleansed, the remains gathered, honored, transferred. The jar and its ring of stones becoming a kind of stage for the living and the dead to meet. It wasn't a single event, but a practice, a rhythm, carried by communities who understood this land as deeply as we understand the shape of our own hands. To carve one jar is labor. To carve thousands is a project that must have spanned generations. Follow the ridge lines and you find the quarries, scars in the hills where sandstone beds lie near the surface, and an unfinished jar still fused to the earth like a sentence that breaks off mid-word. Teams would have split boulders, rough-shaped them in place, then hollowed the core by slow, exact blows. Every tool strike leaves a tiny crescent, and when the light hits right, you can still see those crescents marching around the inner wall. How did they move them? Ropes, sledges, wooden rollers, patient teams with songs to keep the pulling in time, perhaps in seasons when the ground was kinder. Why place them on these knolls and slopes? A vantage point for the living, a landmark for the dead, a place where wind and light could find them. If the jars were made for ritual, their journey was part of the ritual. The effort itself a kind of devotion. When did all of this happen? Fragments tell us a window, a long one. Pottery styles, bead types, and carbon from hearths suggest activity around the late Iron Age, roughly 2,000 years ago. Give or take centuries on either side. Think of it less like a single date, and more like a culture's habit, practiced across generations, evolving, persisting, perhaps tied to trade routes that threaded through this plateau, linking the Mekong world to highland paths. Scholars speak carefully here, because dates are shy things. They hide in soil, in charcoal, in the patina on a carved rim, and every new dig reshapes the curve of our understanding. But if you step back, the big picture is steady. The jars belong to a time when metal rang on stone, when small communities were big enough to organize quarrying, carving, ceremonies, and the long memory needed to keep a custom alive. There is a new scar on this land, not ancient, but painfully recent. During the conflicts of the 20th century, the plateau became a battleground, and the sky rained metal. Bombs fell among the jars, leaving craters that filled with wet seasons, and fields seeded with unexploded ordnance, little killers that waited in the grass. For decades, the plain of jars could not be safely walked. Clearance teams, quiet heroes, moved across the fields, inch by inch, listening for the dull chime in the soil, lifting danger from the ground and stacking it away. If you visit today, you'll see narrow paths marked with red and white stakes, safe corridors traced between the jars, reminders that the past is not the only thing that can haunt a place. And yet, the jars endured, nicked, chipped, but present, a patience that outlasted the noise. So, were they wine vats, grain silos, water collectors, or funeral vessels? The wine story is lovely, and the jars could hold a celebration. But there's little to tie them to brewing beyond legend. Grain? Possible. But would you scatter your food stores across hilltops, far from daily hands? Unlikely. Water? Jars do catch rain, but their placement suggests meaning beyond a practical cistern. The ritual explanation remains the most persuasive. not because it's dramatic, but because it fits with the fragments we can hold. Beads, burial goods, human remains nearby. Stone discs that behave like markers rather than tight lids. And it fits with what we know of other cultures in mainland Southeast Asia, where honoring the dead involved stages, movement, and places set aside under open sky. But I'll say this, the jars are generous. They allow multiple truths to stand together. Perhaps they gathered rain for cleansing. Perhaps they stood as signs to travelers. Perhaps they simply made visible the presence of the dead among the living. The strongest answer we have is humble. These were monuments of community, to keep memory in place. The plain of jars is not an empty museum. It is a lived landscape. Villages breathe at the edges. Hmong, Lao, Khmu. Tie-down communities tend fields, weave cloth, ride motorbikes that stitch thin threads of sound across the morning air. Children chase each other between jars. Tour guides offer soft explanations. Vendors sell grilled chicken and sticky rice, and the wind lifts the grass that leans against the stone. If you come gently, walk the staked paths. Listen more than you speak, and remember that the mystery is not yours to solve. It is yours to respect. Monuments survive when people nearby can live well, and that, too, is part of the story. Stand at dusk and watch how the last light rims the jar rims, bright for a breath, then gone. The jars give you a lesson without words, that the human need to mark existence is older than any flag, older than most scripts, and that sometimes the best monument is a hollow, a space, waiting for sky and wind and memory to fill it. Who left these? We can list possibilities, we can date shards, we can trace the chisel marks, but the truest answer is gentler. People left these, people like us, with hands that grew tired, and songs that rose when the work got heavy. People who believed that the dead deserved a place, that grief should be housed, that time should have a landmark. When you walk away, the jars remain, not to be solved like a puzzle, but to be carried quietly, like a story you finally understand is not finished. Thank you for wandering the plateau with me. If you enjoyed this calm journey into a mystery, there are more landscapes like this waiting. Old stones, soft light, and questions that don't demand an answer. They just ask for time. Until next time, sleep well and let the jars keep watch.